the greatest detective novel in history, Sherlock Holmes.
The Man with the Twisted Lip.
Life often brings surprises when least expected, and even the most ordinary evenings can lead to extraordinary mysteries. I was reminded of this truth one late night when what seemed like a personal errand soon became a case that revealed both tragedy and deception. Isa Whitney needled by the lamp when the bell rang. I heard the door open, quick steps, and a woman in a dark dress and veil hurried in. Mary started. Then she smiled. "Why, it's Kate Whitney. You frightened me." Kate was shaking. "I'm so sorry to come this late. I need help. It's Isa. He hasn't been home for 2 days. I'm terrified." Mary settled her gently. "Have some wine and water, Kate. Tell us everything." Kate said the word I dreaded, opium. She'd learned Isa was at one of the riverside dens, the Bar of Gold in Upper Swandam Lane. She begged me to fetch him. I was Isa's doctor and had a chance of getting him out safely. I promised to be back in 2 hours if I found him, and Mary, brave as ever, squeezed my hand. "Go. I'll be fine. Only bring him home." Upper Swandam Lane sits behind the high wharves east of London Bridge, an ugly slit of a street running down to the river. Between a slop shop and a gin shop, a steep stair plunged into a black gap that might have been a cave mouth. I told the cab to wait, lifted a latch by the glow of a flickering oil lamp, and stepped into a long, low room heavy with the bittersweet reek of opium. Wooden berths, like a cheap ship's forecastle, lined the walls. In the dimness, bodies lay twisted in odd poses, bare feet, bent knees, heads thrown back, chins up. Red glints smoldered in the metal bowls of the pipes. Most were silent, others muttered in a slow, dreamy mumble, speech rising and dying like a tide. A sallow Malay attendant brought me a pipe and motioned to a berth. I waved him off. "I'm here for Mr. Isa Whitney." From the gloom came a thin voice, and a pale, disheveled man stared up. "My God, it's Watson." He was all nerves and sweat. "What o'clock is it?" "Nearly 11. "What day?" "Friday, June 19th. "Good heavens, I thought it was Wednesday. Kate will kill me." He sagged. "I've only been here a few hours. 4 pipes. I'll come. I wouldn't frighten poor Kate." "I have a cab outside." "Then I'll go in it. But I must pay my bill. I'm all off color. Can't think straight." He leaned on me as we moved toward the stairs. We had to pass a tall, thin old man, chin on his fists, elbows on his knees, staring into the brazier. As I slipped by, a voice at my side, very low, said, "Walk past me and then come back." The words tugged at my memory. I glanced down. The speaker slumped like any wreck of a man, opium pipe hanging between his knees, face blotched and ancient. I steadied Isa, cleared the bill, and sent him to the cab with a quick note to Mary. Then I returned, and the old man lurched up, turned so the firelight caught him. My heart jumped. The sagging lines hardened, the eyes sharpened, and Sherlock Holmes grinned at me from behind the ruin of makeup. "Softly, Watson. I've found ears I needed here. Get your patient off home, and then meet me outside. I'll be with you in 5 minutes." We slipped into the street together, Holmes shambling for 2 blocks with rounded back and shuffling step, then straightening and laughing. "You think I came to indulge a vice after taking up cocaine? Not quite. I came to hunt a vice. I'm in the middle of a nasty inquiry, and I hoped the rambling talk of these poor souls might offer a clue, as it did." He whistled. From the gloom a dog-cart swung in, yellow lamps carving tunnels in the fog. "Come along. We're off to Lee in Kent. The lady I serve tonight needs answers." I climbed up. "I'm in the dark, Holmes." "You'll know all shortly," he said. "We've a 7-mile drive and a great deal to cover." He flicked the horse, wheels raffled. The city's stone emptied behind us. Over a broad bridge with the Black River sliding under. Past dim suburbs and scattered village lights. Holmes smoked, and between puffs laid out the case. Some years before, a well-to-do gentleman, Neville St. Clair, had settled at Lee. Good house, friends, no obvious business but respectable means, married in 1887, now 2 children, debt around £88 10 shillings, plus £220 in the bank, nothing alarming. On Monday, he left home early for the city, saying he had errands and would bring his little boy a box of bricks. Shortly after he left, his wife received a telegram. A valuable parcel awaited her at the Aberdeen Shipping Company in Fresno Street, a spur of Upper Swandam Lane, the very alley of this opium den. After lunch, she went to fetch it. At 4:35 p.m., walking down Swandam Lane, she looked up and saw her husband at a second-floor window over the den. He was terribly agitated. He waved his hands wildly and then vanished, yanked back by someone she couldn't see. Convinced something awful had happened, she rushed to the house. The front room was the den I'd just visited. She forced toward the stairs, but the lascar who keeps the place, and a Dane who helps him, pushed her out. She tore down the lane, met police in Fresno Street, and returned with them. They found no Neville inside, no one on the floor about but a hideous cripple, who lodges there, Hugh Boone, a professional beggar known to half London. The rooms were searched. In the bedroom, they found blood on the windowsill and several drops by the window. In the front room, Neville's clothes, coat, boots, socks, hat, and watch were piled behind a curtain. No collar, no necktie. The window looked over the river. At low tide, the mud shows. At high tide, 4.5 feet of water. No body, just blood and the open way to the Thames. The lascar swore he knew nothing. Boone swore the same. Yet later, when the tide fell, they found a coat in the mud. Neville St. Clair's coat, with 421 pennies and 270 halfpennies jammed in the pockets, clearly meant to sink. If Boone killed him, he'd throw out the coat and then, hearing the scuffle at the door, slam the window and wait for the police. But there are loose ends. He fell silent as we turned up a gravel drive. A house glowed ahead. "The Cedars," he said. "Mrs. St. Clair is waiting." We pulled up. A stable boy ran to the horse's head. The door opened, and Mrs. St. Clair, small, blonde, in pale silk with a fluff of chiffon, stood in a wash of light, one hand on the door, the other raised. "Well?" Then she saw there were 2 of us, and hope flared and died in a breath. "No good news?" "None," Holmes said gently. "No bad?" "No." "Thank God." She took my hand. "Dr. Watson, thank you for coming." Holmes introduced me. She led us to a bright dining room set for supper. "I have to ask you plainly," she said, steady and not hysterical. "Do you think Neville is alive?" Holmes hesitated. "Honestly, I don't." "You think he's dead?" "I didn't say that. Perhaps." "And on what day would he have died?" "On Monday." "Then please explain," she said, straightening, eyes keen, "how I received a letter from him today." Holmes sprang up. "What?" She held out a cheap, coarse envelope stamped Gravesend and dated last night. Holmes smoothed the crumpled paper, studying everything. "The address is in a black ink that has dried pale. The rest is grayish, as if blotting paper was used, so not the same pen as the signer used. The flap is gummed clumsily, with a deep black stain, chewing tobacco, and the cover looks like it was torn from the flyleaf of a cheap octavo book, but the enclosure—" She handed him the note. Holmes read aloud. "Dearest, do not be frightened. All will come well. There is a huge error which it may take some little time to rectify. Wait in patience. Neville." Holmes turned the paper. Written in pencil on a book's flyleaf, posted today at Gravesend by a man with a dirty thumb. He looked up. "You're certain it's your husband's hand?" "It is his quick hand, the one he uses when rushed. I know it." "And was there anything else in the envelope?" "A ring, his signet." Holmes nodded, face grave. "Mrs. St. Clair, I've learned not to dismiss a woman's instinct. This letter is strong evidence. But if he is alive and writing, why hasn't he come home?" "I don't know. It's unthinkable." She answered every question steadily. She had never heard of Swandam Lane. Neville had no opium habits, and he had been in ordinary clothes. The window was open, and he waved and gave a cry she couldn't make out. The Lascar admitted being in the lower room. She saw no one else in the bedroom. "Thank you," Holmes said at last. "Those are the main points. We'll have a little supper and some sleep if we can. Tomorrow we'll be busy." A double-bedded room was given us. Holmes, when he has a live problem, lives in it like a soldier in a bivouac. He stripped off coat and waistcoat, put on a big dressing gown, then built himself a nest of pillows on the sofa, exactly 5, and laid out an ounce of shag tobacco and a box of matches. He coiled into a Turkish divan, old briar clenched between his lips, the thin blue smoke curling upward while his hawk-sharp profile stayed perfectly still. I drifted off and woke later to the early sun flooding the room. The pipe hung from his lips, the smoke had thinned, the pile of shag had vanished. "Awake, Watson?" he asked. "Yes." "Up for a morning drive?" "Certainly." "Then dress. The stable boy is getting the trap. In the bathroom you'll see I've brought home the key to this business." "The key?" Holmes' eyes twinkled. "I went to Charing Cross in the night and fetched it. It's in my Gladstone bag. We'll see if it fits the lock." We slipped out into the bright hush before dawn, climbed into the dog-cart, and flew toward London. "It's been a hard case," Holmes said, as the wheels clattered. "I've been as blind as a mole. Better to admit ignorance than pretend to wisdom." We crossed Waterloo Bridge, swung down Wellington Street, and drove straight to Bow Street. The constables nodded to Holmes, who asked for Inspector Bradstreet. Bradstreet, stout, capable, welcomed Holmes. "You're here about Hugh Boone, the beggar charged in Mr. Neville Sinclair's disappearance. You have him here?" "In the cells. Quiet enough, but filthy as a tinker," he grimaced. "We'll scrub him once the case is settled." "I'd like to see him," said Holmes, "and I brought a small tool." He tapped the Gladstone bag. A warder led us down a passage, past a barred door, along a whitewashed corridor. "Third on the right," said Bradstreet, sliding back a panel. We peered in. A middle-sized man slept face up, breathing heavily. His coat was torn, a broad red scar ran from eye to chin. The contracted lip bared 3 teeth in a permanent snarl. A ragged shock of red hair lay over his brow. He was as dirty as any man I've seen. "He's a beauty, isn't he?" Bradstreet said. "He needs a wash," Holmes murmured, drawing out a large bath sponge. "If you'd be so good as to open quietly." The sleeper stirred. The warder unlocked. We went in. Holmes dipped the sponge, wrung it, and, with 2 firm strokes, rubbed the prisoner's face. What happened was like a stage trick. The brown grime slid off in sheets. The thick scar vanished. The twisted lip smoothed. The snarling mouth became a normal one. Red wig hair slumped. Black hair showed beneath. The man leaped up with a cry, face white and fine, rubbing his cheeks in horror. "Great heavens," said Bradstreet. "It's the missing man from the photograph, Neville Sinclair." Neville stared round, then dropped onto the pillow and hid his face. "What am I charged with?" he asked hoarsely. "With causing your own attempted suicide," said Bradstreet, half joking, half dazed. Holmes stepped in gently. "No crime, only a grave wrong. You'd have done better to trust your wife." "I didn't mean for her to be ashamed," he groaned. "It wasn't my wife, it was the children. God forgive me, I couldn't have them ashamed of their father. What can I do?" "Two paths," Holmes said, sitting beside him. "You can go to court and endure the scandal. Or, if Bradstreet agrees there's no case to bring, we can go quietly to the proper authorities, give them the facts, and keep it out of the papers." "God bless you," he said, shaking. "You are the first to hear my story from my own lips." Bradstreet folded his arms. "It had better be the whole of it." Neville told it straight. "My father was a schoolmaster in Chesterfield. I had a solid education. In youth I traveled, tried the stage, and ended up as a journalist on an evening paper in London. One day my editor asked for articles on city begging. I needed facts, so I disguised myself and tried it. I discovered I could make myself pitiable with makeup and a trick of the lip, a small strip of flesh-colored plaster to twist it, and a red wig. I bought a tattered coat, took a match-seller's tray, and sat in a busy spot near Threadneedle Street and waited. Then the money began to rain, a steady stream of pennies and silver, varied by the occasional shilling, poured into my cap. I made more in one day than in a week at the paper. I wrote my pieces and meant to stop. But later I backed a friend's bill for £25 and had to find the cash. On a desperate idea, I took a fortnight off, begged in disguise, and paid the debt in 10 days. After that, how could I go back to tedious work at £2 a week when I could make that in a single day with a little paint and posture? I took a small house in the country, married and had children. My wife knew I had business in the city, that's all. Each morning I left Swandam Lane after changing in a room lent to me by a lascar I paid well to keep silent. I emerged as a filthy Hugh Boone, did my work all day, then washed and dressed in the evening and came home as Neville Sinclair. I saved hundreds a year, less than the average top men might earn, perhaps, but high for me. The face paint, the twisted lip, the wig, all perfected by practice, made me a familiar character. You may have even dropped a coin in my cap, Dr. Watson. I swallowed. I very well might have. Monday, he went on, I had finished the day and was changing in my room when I looked out and saw my wife in the street. Horror! I threw up my hands and cried out. She heard me. I begged the lascar to keep her back, but I heard her on the stairs. I knew she would know me the moment she saw my real face, so I tore off my clothes, threw on Boone's rags, smeared the pigments, and jammed on the red wig. I realized the clothes might betray me. I dragged the trunk open, slashed my own finger, the blood you saw on the sill, threw my coat out of the window after weighting it with my takings, coppers in a leather bag, so it would sink, and would have sent out the rest, but the police rushed in. In the confusion, I was seized as Boone, not recognized as Neville, and here I am. He looked up, wretched. I slipped off my ring to the lascar with a note to calm my wife, posted clumsily at Gravesend, and prayed this would end quietly. Bradstreet exhaled. We've watched that lascar. I can believe a sailor customer posted the letter late. Right, Mr. Sinclair. If you promise there will be no more Hugh Boone, we can keep this out of print. I swear it, Neville said, on the most solemn oaths a man can take. Holmes nodded. Then I think, Inspector, no further steps are needed unless he's found at it again." Bradstreet grinned. "I've been 27 years in the force. This beats them all. Mr. Holmes, we owe you for clearing it. I only wish I knew how you got there." Holmes stood, picking up his Gladstone bag. "By sitting on 5 pillows and smoking an ounce of shag," he said dryly. Then he turned to me with that tired, satisfied look I know so well. "Come, Watson, if we drive to Baker Street now, we'll be just in time for breakfast."